number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Cristiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs in New York City and the Hamptons. We cover Broadway and off-Broadway theater. Today we're coming to you from the LTV studio, and I have a really special guest, Cindi Sansone. And Cindi, I forget your last part of your name again.
Braff.
Cindi Sansone-Braff. I'm so sorry, Cindi. Cindi Sansone-Braff. I know Cindi is
name.
Cindi. She's Cindi to me, the psychic and the playwright. So I apologize, Cindi. Cindi's here to talk about, wow,
lots of stuff.
Her life. Primarily, we're going to talk about a play that she wrote called Angels, Mice, and Men, but we'll get back to that a little bit later because it's going to be at the Hudson Guild July 30th, 31st, and August 3rd. But I want to talk a little bit with Cindi about how she wrote this play, how it came to be, and everything, because she was a belly dancer and a children's entertainer,
right,
correct?
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit how you progressed from belly dancer, children's entertainer, to playwright, psychic, extraordinaire, and what motivated you to write the play?
It sort of came to me, that play. Like most of them come from a
title
place.
Again, make it clear
Angels,
to them. Angel. No, I know the title, but I want
right.
the audience to be clear. It's Angels, Mice, and Men.
Right.
So you're talking about an Angels, Mice, and Men, correct?
Okay, it's a woman named Angel Ventura, who's a widow.
Okay.
And one of my friends, who was a really good person, and purely good, and I always thought, if anything ever happened to her husband, because she loved him so much, would she ever be able to love again? And so this really got a little springboard from there. The mouse part came because I was terrified of mice, and there was one in my house at the time, and I thought, how could something
Is this the
tiny
extent
as
of
this,
the autobiographical
that's it. The mouse is the only part. And so I thought, oh, mouse. What could being afraid of a mouse inspire? So basically, it came as a thought form. What if a woman only thought, like, love struck once like lightning? And what would have to occur for her to have love happen again? So it kind of was, the mouse is a little bit of something that scares her, and they use the analogy that she's so afraid of mice, and it's becoming she's afraid of men as well. So it was basically just a thought that came as that. And then I wasn't very spiritual at the time at all, so I was shocked to see how much was about the other side, and is there something more than what we see?
This just came out in the unfolding of the writing.
And I was shocked. It was like, I thought it was being written from somewhere other than me, because I was like, why is
this? Where'd your characters come from?
And
I mean, did you base your character, Angel, on your friend?
Basically on her, but the character, Mrs. Bloom, who is an oldest grandmother type, she's Jewish, and she comes to live in Angel's house, was based on a grandmother that I had known from one of my friends. Mm-hmm. And then the character Gina, her sister.
All these people are familiar to you then.
Right, but Gina was just, her sister just came out of a composite of people. And the character of Steele, the love interest, just came from the writing. But the inspiring character was the character Angel and her plight. So that's where it kind of came from.
So you just started writing from Angel's perspective?
Right, and I wanted to write a romantic comedy. I wanted to try that genre. And it has a very dark part in it. So I wanted to see if to write a romantic.
So she has romance? Is that what happens?
She has a romance.
She meets a man that she's afraid of, and she's afraid the same way she's afraid of the mice.
Right, and he comes to paint her house. She's not looking for love. Her sister's looking for love. She's looking to have her house painted. So this house painter lands in her house, and there's a summer storm that comes. It's all based on Long Island, so it has a lot of things about Long Island weather and this storm that happens. That
is it one setting? Is the house?
It's one setting in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And
how much time period does it cover?
It's only a 1 month. Mm-hmm. So in this course of a month, these people bond, love happens, and almost breaks apart. and a miracle has to happen for her to bring this love back. So there's a lot of, emphasis on the other side and something deeper than Angel even imagines. And it kind of takes all of them by surprise.
So what's interesting, do you feel like you channeled it, or just
I felt like I
came to
channeled
you?
it. I felt like I channeled it. Because I wrote it in 1992, and when I finished it in 1994, all of a sudden someone had asked me to do psychic event for a bar mitzvah. Could you do tarot card reading? And I don't fake anything. And I was like, you're asking me to do tarot cards? I don't know anything about it. And she said, you have a year, so study. So I said, let me study a little bit. And I ended up reading 12 books. I found it fascinating, the tarot deck, with all the symbolism and the archetypes and everything.
But you've never done it before?
Never did it before. And I had a full year.
And you never approached anything that was psychic or spiritual or anything, but this book got you talking about the other side.
Other side. So all of a sudden, where is this coming from, the other side? And that do people commune from the other side? And is there more than this to life? So then I'm doing the tarot cards.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Again, I'm terrible
Sure.
about it. But did you hear voices in your head? Did you hear things that people talking to you, or did it seem like people talking to you?
No, I just felt like when I was writing it, the dialogue was coming by itself, and then I was being sort of guided to read books about angels and different topics that inspired me. So I felt all of my writing, by now I feel very guided.
But
so
you're a very open person by nature, too.
to let it just come,
So,
but I was surprised. And when people read it now, they said, oh, you must have written it recently, because it's so spiritual. I go, no, I wrote it when I wasn't spiritual. Like, it was as surprising to me, and then the tarot card was sort of tricking me.
It was your path to spirituality.
Exactly.
It was the thing that kicked you in the butt and said, because you had no spirituality before?
No.
Oh my God.
No, not for probably 20 years. I was pretty much an atheist, I would say, or an agnostic, and not really paying any attention to anything spiritual.
Which were you, an atheist or agnostic?
I would
There's
say
a difference,
there
I
is a
believe.
difference. I would say for a while an atheist, and then kind of moved to an agnostic and not giving it too much thought.
I was always afraid to be an atheist because there really
what if there
was a God to get punished.
Right. I think an atheist maybe a year. And I said, well, let me go back to being agnostic. But I went back a little bit to my Catholic roots in this because she's an Italian woman and she's very Catholic. So I went back to my childhood roots of someone who's very, very Catholic, and all her decisions would be based on being very, very Catholic. So that was kind of fun to do. And Mrs. Bloom is Jewish, so the two kind of have a lot of fun together in the contrast. So it is a very...
Now, have you returned to Catholicism, or do you just have a spirituality?
No, I just have this more spirituality.
Okay.
I like all religions. I read about all of them and find them all fascinating.
Yeah.
But, with the tarot, because it's so symbolic, anybody who's a writer, it's all dream symbolism, writing symbolism, has archetypes, like the high priestess and kings and queens, and it's like amazing.
Your character in the play, is she an archetype?
Yeah, she would be more kind of just someone who's purely good, like angel, like almost an angel, like on earth.
Well, that's
doesn't have a bad bone in her body, doesn't have an evil thought in her body. And most of us are not that pure.
So all her conflicts come out of her fears?
Come out of her fears, and that she's almost resigned herself at the 38th year of her life, that she's going to be a widow her life and a mother and a teacher, and that's it. She's not going to have any more love. And her sister Gina wants her to come back to the land of the living. She's like, she remembers her sister before she was widowed, and she wants that woman back. And Gina plots to have her meet somebody or get involved. And it's so funny because Gina's the one who wants love. She's the one who has a catering hall picked already and a wedding dress and the date picked for her wedding. She doesn't have a groom yet, but she's so convinced she's going to find it. And Angel's has gotten very old, and so she doesn't want her sister to be like that. So it's really Gina who gets it all kind of going. And she's a fun character.
And it's funny, too.
It's according to the staff,
how many characters altogether?
It's 4.
Oh, great.
And
it's nice, easy to produce.
It's easy to produce. As a writing major at the University of Connecticut, we were taught, if you want to get your plays produced, one set, few characters, inexpensive. So that was like, let's see if we can get this done.
Is this your first play?
It was the first one. No, it's my second one. I wrote another one called A Whole Empty House, which was about the Vietnam War.
When did you write that one?
I wrote that one in probably 1987, and it picked up a few awards and things like that. So this was like the second full-length play.
What motivated you to write a play in the first place?
I was a playwriting major at the University of Connecticut. It's always been my
So
my
this
desire.
is your passion, really. then.
Since I read Tennessee Williams' Glass Menagerie at 15. Once
So
I
this
read
is-
that, I said, I'm going to be a playwright. That has been my dream since I was 15 years old. Nothing, everything else I've accomplished has been a way of making a living and a passionate way to make a living. I have to be, I've loved my ways of making a living, but it's always been my goal to be a playwright. And nothing, that has been my phenomenal dream. We all have one of those, I guess.
Yeah, but
Right.
we all don't get to live all of our dreams all the time, and some people hit roadblocks and have to reinvent themselves. So to
Of
get
course.
to do it is cool. I didn't know that part about your story because we talked a little bit before.
Right.
You didn't.
Mentioned that was really something, and I don't know if you remember
your
reading.
overriding passion.
Oh yeah, and then I read Death of a Salesman, and I was like, oh, this is what I have to do.
What other playwrights do you like?
Well, I listened to recently all of Noel Coward's, which I was amazed, and they're going to do Private Lives out here in Hamptons, and I was amazed how contemporary they are. Are you familiar with him at all?
I love Noel Coward a lot. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
it's shocking they took place.
I don't know. I'm an actor, and besides acting and writing all that
Wow,
stuff,
I didn't
with the woman you met, Zena Jasper. I did an acting workshop with her for 20 years. I've worked on so much Noel Coward. It's the only reason I've inserted.
Well, and
he's so delicious. To
and
play.
he's so contemporary with his, sexual mores. I mean, so I found him. I love him. I've been reading George Bernard Shaw, listening to all of his. I get audios, and I love to listen to them while I'm driving and while I'm working out because I can really hear it.
What about Chekhov?
I love Chekhov. And, I like a lot of the classics. I like reading Shakespeare. I like going far back. And, I practically enjoy every playwright. I mean...
Albee, do you like Albee too?
I love Edward Albee,
Because he's one of my... I
love him.
When you say Tennessee Williams, he happens to be my probably favorite.
Me too.
I mean,
He's my favorite.
I don't know. I love Albee too. We could talk about playwrights
forever
for the rest of this. Yes.
Right, and I've met Albee on a few occasions,
Me
and
too,
I found him to be such an interesting man and colorful. But he was at Hofstra University talking about his Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and he was saying it was about the American Revolution and the failure of the American Revolution.
He was pulling your leg.
I know. I mean, he was talking in the theater, and I raised my hand and said, if that's what your play's about, you failed, because it's nothing about that.
He was pulling your leg.
And he just laughed.
I can't get into gossip at the moment, but last week at Bob Colicello's opening of his photography exhibit in the West Village, I met one of Mr. Albee's ex-lovers who told me what his opinion of what Albee said it was about back then.
Okay.
Now, we don't know how true that is, so we're not going to delve into that. But
he's fascinating.
That's another show. Let's get back to you.
Okay.
It's what's really wonderful is all these people inform your work too. When to be exposed to all that kind of stuff.
And love them, see what makes their plays work, what gets to me, and so I'm an avid listener of plays and going to see them and read them. I like to read them too. I like to see the script itself, which after I hear it or see it, I always read the script to see what I would have maybe done with it, and I like seeing ones that I've only read a long time ago, and then you get to see them staged because I like to see if it's how I envisioned it or didn't envision it, and sometimes it's close to it, sometimes it's far off. So I find, the study of the plays to be what's most important to me, the structure and understanding it. And where it comes
to me,
from.
it's like what we talked about before. It's never what you're saying, it's what you're doing.
Exactly.
And it's the more it goes counterproductive to what you're doing to the word, the more interesting I often think it is.
Right, to understand all the subtext that's there, and it's fascinating. I find it to be a very fascinating art, and I don't think I would ever choose to be anything else. I mean, I'm a nonfiction writer, and those you have to nail my feet to the floor to write.
But you've only written 2 plays?
No, I've written a one-man play about Beethoven called Beethoven's Promethean Concerto.
So that's 3 plays altogether.
Yeah, and I actually have another one, The Karma Bums, which is a spoof on spiritual things, which people...
Now, the Beethoven one you did already.
I did in 2017 at the Bacchus Center in Lindenhurst. We had it produced. He was fabulous, our Beethoven. He was also a musician, so people, after watching him for an hour...
Does it have music in it, too?
It's all Beethoven's music. And it's only placed in 24 hours. It's like a Greek classic.
Oh, I love plays that do that.
Because he loved the Greek classic playwrights. So if I was going to do justice to his life, let it be done in one set, the way he would want it, with a Greek chorus, which of course was singing from his Missa Solemnis, his Mass. So we had a chorus in there.
Oh, how lovely.
All of his music. And I did 4 years of research before I wrote it, in which actually Beethoven channeled me to write this play. It's the one play that someone from the other side came through to channel and asked me to please write it when I was watching
Now,
Immortal
all of
Beloved.
this stuff came about, though, by writing your first play.
The first play
and
that
then,
was...
Because you would never gotten
No.
Beethoven channeled and to write this play, and that wouldn't have happened either.
No.
So, but now you have a podcast called Ask the Psychic?
Ask the Psychic
Ask
on
the Psychic.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tell the people how they can get to your psychic.
Well,
to your
you
show.
can probably go to my website because it's on there, which is grantmeahigherlove.com, and it's on Blog Talk Radio. And people call in every Thursday night at 7 p.m. to ask me questions about relationships or psychic things. So it's really quite fun. We have a huge following right now, and it's every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And
Terrific.
it's great.
And Cindi has also written a couple of books, Why Good People Don't Leave Bad Relationships. Is
Why
that the
good people can't leave bad relationships.
And the other book?
Grant Me a Higher Love, which is all about soulmate love. And that's probably, Angel and Steele in the play are soulmates. And interesting enough, I didn't know that much about soulmates when I wrote it, but looking back now, I said, boy, that has all the characteristics of soulmate love.
Did you know when you were creating them, however? I mean, when you were creating them, did you know they were soulmates, or was the accumulation of writing it, did you go, oh, these guys are soulmates? I mean,
I don't think I thought about it. I think about it now, looking back, how these are soulmates, how they have a recognition factor, like they've always known each other, how there's a lot of obstacles to overcome, how there is this instant heart connection, soul, mind, and body that's hard to explain, knocks your socks off, and how you go from knowing each other for a second to feeling like you've always known each other, and it doesn't feel like a month. It feels like, well, in Greek there's 2 words for time. There's chronos time, which I had to be here at 2 o'clock for you, and there's kairos time, which is soul time, where time stands still, and those are the moments that determine our life. So this play is really about kairos time, not 1 month in time, but kairos time, that really took them by surprise and felt eternal.
Oh, sounds beautiful.
So it's a nice love story from what people tell me.
I love love stories.
I know.
Who doesn't like a good love story?
And they're really
And
popular
if it's like
rom-coms
humor,
now.
too?
Right? We know they're really popular again, the romantic comedies. They've come back.
They've always been popular.
Right, I think so.
When were they ever out of fashion?
I don't know, but I love them.
The only time they were out of fashion, we didn't have a good one, was the only reason.
Right,
Now,
exactly.
when it was-
Exactly.
They forgot, we forgot to make a good
one. We
romance
forgot that it was
lately.
about love and soul. So all of my characters, whenever I write something, I try to get to their soul. Like with Beethoven, I was not a musician, and I really didn't know much about classical. And when he came to me when I was watching the movie Immortal Beloved, did you ever see Immortal Beloved? It's about Beethoven. It's about who was supposed...
in it?
It was Gary Oldman and Isabella Rossellini.
Yes, I saw it, yes.
Okay. But when I was watching it,
Yes, wonderful.
Beethoven came through to me, and normally when I'm not working, dead do not speak, okay? And he kept saying, this is all wrong, it's all inaccurate, this is not truthful. I wanted him to tell me the truth. And so I said, I don't know anything about this. And he kept saying, this is not truthful, would you look up my life or study? And this was
Now,
in
how did you know it was
1994.
Beethoven?
Because he made himself plain and clear that it was Beethoven. He was furious with who they said his immortal beloved was.
Did it scare you when Beethoven started to talk to you?
It was annoying. I'm trying to watch a movie, and I don't channel famous people normally. It was annoying.
And had you already had the channeling ability? Did you already?
Yes, by then I
had
was
you channeled
channeling a
before
few
that?
years. Just, doing psychic readings, mostly just someone's mother or grandmother, nobody famous whatsoever, just
Okay.
You know, just
so this was the first famous person?
first.
And you were still annoyed with the famous person?
Very annoyed, very annoyed. And I said, let me
You
watch
weren't a
the
little bit
movie.
excited.
And I promised him I would do some research the next day. And I began to read things about him. I realized why he would be so offended by it and why it would bother him. And then I was saying to him, but I don't know much about your music. And he said, you'll learn. You know my heart and my soul. He wanted his soul brought forth. So anyone who saw that play felt they, after 2 hours of Beethoven, they felt like they knew the soul of that man. And I said, that's what he wanted. And I researched all his music to find out when his true immortal beloved really should have taken place. And I could see the longing music took place 25 years ago when he was a young man, that he had to meet her when he was young. I saw the music take a turn at a certain point when he reunited with her, and then when she died. And so I was able to use all the music that would go through that period of his life. And so the music was, chosen for that. And getting all the public domain music was hard, but I did.
Oh my God.
But I did. It was 130 sound cues, so there was a lot of music in there. And it just, from...
Now when you go with did you have to get the rights to all of it, or could you just use...
I could use public domain because the music is, if I could get people to have just created it, it would be public domain. But on the internet, thank God to the internet now. You can Google anything. I was able to find most of the music public domain to use. The few pieces I couldn't, I had someone create because they were important pieces that I needed. But mostly it was public domain music. But it took a long time to find it. It was,
it's...
it was, and some of the public domain was too scratchy, it was not good. So finally finding the right music was hard. But, the Beethoven we had was a brilliant man. He's a young man. And he also knew how to play the piano. So people were kind of shocked an hour into the show's second act when he gets up and plays the piano. Nobody could believe
that's
it.
really
He played
exciting.
Moonlight Sonata.
People love that.
Love
it. Yeah, it's a wonderful moment.
It was dramatic.
Yeah.
But that was, all my characters are always sort of, I have to get to their
So
soul.
you did the same, when Angels, Mice and Men, did you know her soul in the beginning or not?
I knew her soul. Her soul kind of came to me, someone who's so purely good. And I try not to write about neurotic characters. I try to write about characters that have had true suffering in life.
So how long is the play in its entirety?
It's 90 minutes. That's what I had to redo because it was originally written in a 3-act form back when, because that's in the 1990s was 3-act forms. Then I redid it again one other time to 2 acts. And now I did it to one act because that seems to be a little bit of a preference now. So I had to switch around some scenes. It's essentially the same play except scenes had to be switched for costume changes.
Yeah. Okay, so now it's going to be at the Hudson Guild, which is in Chelsea, New York, July 30th, 31st, and August 3rd, 9 o'clock on July 30th, 6:15 on the 31st, and 4 p.m. on August 30th now. And if people want to get tickets, they can go, how do they find it?
They could go to New York Summerfest Theater Festival. And,
just tell it to the camera directly.
New York Summerfest Theater Festival and brown paper ticket sales there.
Yeah.
And they have it right there on the site. You can't miss it.
Now, we were talking before how brave you are that you're going to direct it yourself.
How brave and foolish.
Hey, you learn from everything,
exactly.
everything. So you have a rehearsal later on today. You're going to scoot out of here. And was it a challenge casting it?
It's been a challenge. We had to recast the male lead, and I just recasted
when you
him.
get good people, they get another job. Is that what happened?
Well, they don't realize their scheduling difficulties. And what I realized, casting the women was a snap. With men, I found out the secret, don't cast too soon. Because a lot of good men don't want to commit, so far in advance. Maybe they'll get something better or something will come up. And so I had to recast it this weekend, and I got fabulous responses from backstage. And the Hamptons Theater Company was so kind to post it on their site for me, which is amazing. Thank you to them. And I got a million wonderful responses, and we're pretty sure who we're going to use yet.
How old are the characters?
In their late 30s, early 40s, and Gina's younger. She's in her 20s, and the Rose Bloom is in her 70s. So I have a variety of ages. I like to see people of different ages being soulfully together. Not that you can't relate to somebody who's 75, you can't relate to somebody who's younger. Because the soul is immortal. It doesn't matter how old people are. So I found the dynamics of the different ages to be fun as they juxtapose against each other and how they feel differently about things. And Jean is very outspoken and open, and Mrs. Bloom's this kind of conservative Jewish woman who, by the end, has a little bit of switch in her personality as well. So it's a lot of fun.
This has been really cool talking to you. I find it extraordinary how you have morphed from one thing to another, and just writing this play took you on this real
journey.
It's a real journey.
A journey.
And deeping, into the spirituality and the psychic.
All of it
things
came
and
from
the television show and writing more books. And how long have you had your podcast now?
10 years now.
Wow.
10 years. And Nicole, my producer, has been with me for 10 solid years. She didn't believe in soulmates or having a higher love. She never thought it would happen.
Has she come around? You're trying to tell me?
I'm rushing you up because we're running out of time. She has a wonderful wife that she met, and she thanks Grant Me a Higher Love. She has a wonderful wife that she met, and she thanks Grant Me a Higher Love every day of her life because I told her, just say the words, grant me a higher love, and you'll be granted one. And she's managed to maintain her soulmate.
Hey, people, try it. Grant me a higher love.
You don't have to read the book. Just say it.
Read the book and just say it out loud. Grant me a higher love, and
see what happens.
Cindi said it'll come your way.
I promise.
I think having manifesting stuff in your life takes that intention. Yes, and you have to I believe setting that kind of intention.
Absolutely.
Is part of what.
And believing it can happen.
And you got to put passion in mix. You have a lot of passion for playwriting.
I do. It's my passion.
Yeah.
I won't get so excited about anything but plays, or as angry if I see something not good.
Did you get to see The Ferryman this year?
No.
Have you heard about it?
Yes, I heard it was fabulous.
Well, it won the Outer Critics Circle Award this morning. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, I didn't.
And it's nominated for a Tony and for a Drama Desk. I thought it was extraordinary.
And you called it.
What?
You knew it was going to go far.
Did I tell you that?
I could just tell that you knew it.
Well,
so you're a little psychic yourself. You knew that.
I don't think that came from anything psychic. That came from just seeing the work. But we're all out of time. We'll do another show and talk about.
Thank you so much, and
more
thank you
about
for
plays
having me.
And playwrights and everything. And good luck to you when you're at the Hudson Guild.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.